now cut across to Westminster Abbey in London, where bells are being tolled to pay respects to the passing of the Queen. These are live visuals coming from Westminster Abbey in London. The funeral of Queen Elizabeth II will take place at Westminster Abbey in about 2 weeks from now. The church holds historic importance and has played a major role in her life. Accounts show that in her first major appearance at Westminster Abbey, then the 8-year-old Princess Elizabeth of York was a bridesmaid at the wedding of her uncle Prince George, the Duke of Kent. Remember, Britain is in a 10-day mourning period after the news broke of the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. All national activities will virtually come to a halt for the next 10 days across the British capital and much of the United Kingdom. The Queen died peacefully on Thursday afternoon at her Scottish estate, Balmoral Castle, where she had spent much of the summer. It was famous for being one of her more favourite homes. And this, of course, is a famous church, Westminster Abbey in central London. The now King Charles III said that the death of his beloved mother was a moment of great sadness for him and his family, and that her loss would be deeply felt around the world. Since the news of her passing broke, global leaders have sent in condolences, and tributes have been pouring in from across the world. She has been praised for being a symbol of reconciliation. The world seems to be in mourning for a cherished sovereign. The Queen was seen as predating modern times. Historians, authors, and those in her inner circle refer to her as a true stateswoman.
We are meeting today for tributes to Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth.
And now let's cut across to the House of Commons, where the British MPs are expected to pay respects
10 p.m.
to the late Queen.
At approximately 6 o'clock, the House will be suspended while His Majesty, the King, makes his broadcast to the nation. Members present will be able to watch the broadcast on screens in the chamber. We will then resume our proceedings to continue with tributes. The House will then sit again tomorrow at 1 o'clock. The first business will be oath-taking for a small number of senior members. Members to be invited to take the oath tomorrow are being contacted by my office. All other members will have an opportunity to take the oath when the House returns. After oath-taking tomorrow, tributes will be continued. The House is expected to sit till approximately 10 p.m. The House is not expected to sit on Sunday. I now call the Prime Minister, Elizabeth Truss.
Mr. Speaker, in the hours since last night's shocking news, we have witnessed the most heartfelt outpouring of grief at the loss of Her late Majesty, the Queen. Crowds have gathered, flags have been lowered to half-mast, tributes have been sent from every continent around the world. On the death of her father, King George VI, Winston Churchill said the news had stilled the clatter and traffic of 20th century life in many lands. Now, 70 years later, in the tumult of the 21st century, life has paused again. Her late Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, was one of the greatest leaders the world has ever known. She was the rock on which modern Britain was built. She came to the throne at just 25, in a country that was emerging from the shadow of war. She bequeaths a modern, dynamic nation that has grown and flourished under her reign. The United Kingdom is the great country it is today because of her. The Commonwealth is the family of nations it is today because of her. She was devoted to the union of England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. She served 15 countries as head of state, and she loved them all. Her words of wisdom gave us strength in the most testing times. During the darkest moments of the pandemic, she gave us hope that we would meet again. She knew this generation of Britons would be as strong as any. And as we meet today, we remember the pledge she made on her 21st birthday to dedicate her life to service. The whole House will agree. Never has a promise been so completely fulfilled. Yeah. Her devotion to duty remains an example to us all. She carried out thousands of engagements. She took a red box every day. She gave her assent to countless pieces of legislation and was at the heart of our national life for 7 decades. As Supreme Governor of the Church of England, she drew on her deep faith. She was the nation's greatest diplomat. Her visits to post-apartheid South Africa and to the Republic of Ireland showed a unique ability to transcend.
And now let's go across to the House of Commons, where the opposition leader, Sir Keir Starmer, is addressing the House of Commons.
In return for that, we loved her. And it is because of that great shared love that we grieve today. For the 70 glorious years of her reign, our Queen was at the heart of this nation's life. She did not simply reign over us. She lived alongside us. She shared in our hopes and our fears, our joy and our pain, our good times and our bad. Our Queen played a crucial role as the thread between the history we cherish and the present we own. A reminder that our generational battle against the evil of fascism or the emergence of a new Britain out of the rubble of the Second World War do not only belong to the past, but are the inheritance of each and every one of us. A reminder that the creativity, the hard work, the enterprise that has always defined this nation is as abundant now as it ever was. A reminder that the prospect of a better future still burns brightly. Never was this link more important, that when our country was plunged into lockdown at the start of the pandemic, her simple message that we would see family again, that we would see friends again, that we would be together again, gave people strength and courage when they needed it most. But it wasn't simply the message that allowed a shaken nation to draw upon those reserves. It was the fact that she was the messenger. COVID closed the front doors of every home in the country. It made our lives smaller and more remote. But she was able to reach beyond that, to reassure us and steel us. At the time we were most alone, at a time we'd been driven apart, she held the nation close in a way no one else could have done. For that, we say thank you. On the occasion of the Queen's Silver Jubilee in 1977, Philip Larkin wrote of her reign, "In times when nothing stood, but worsened or grew strange, there was one constant good: she did not change." It feels like we are once again in a moment in our history where, as Larkin put it, things are growing strange, where everything is spinning. A nation requires a still point. When times are difficult, it requires comfort. And when direction is hard to find, it requires leadership. The loss of our Queen robs this country of its stillest point, its greatest comfort, at precisely the time we need those things most. But our Queen's commitment to us, her life of public service, was underpinned by one crucial understanding: that the country she came to symbolise is bigger than any one individual or any one institution. It is the sum total of all our history and all our endeavours, and it will endure. The late Queen would have wanted us to redouble our efforts, to turn our collar up and face the storm, to carry on. Most of all, she would want us to remember that it is in these moments that we must pull together. This House is a place where ideas and ideals are debated. Of course, that leads to passionate disagreement. Of course, temperatures can run high. But we all do it in pursuit of something greater. We do it because we believe we can make this great country and its people greater still. At this moment of uncertainty, where our country feels caught between a past it cannot relive and a future yet to be revealed, we must always remember one of the great lessons of our Queen's reign, that we are always better when we rise above the petty, the trivial, the day-to-day, to focus on the things that really matter, the things that unite us, rather than those which divide us. Our Elizabethan age may now be over, but her legacy will live on forever. And as the children of that era, it falls upon us to take that legacy forward, to show the same love of country, the love of one another, as she did, to show empathy and compassion, as she did, and to get Britain through this dark night and bring it into the dawn, as she did. We join together today not just to say goodbye to our Queen, to share in our mourning, but to say something else important. God save the King, because as one era ends, so another begins. King Charles III has been a devoted servant of this country his entire life. He has been a powerful voice for fairness and understood the importance of the environment long before many others. As he ascends to his new role, with the Queen Consort by his side, the whole House, indeed the whole country, will join today to wish him a long, happy and successful reign. Mr. Speaker, the emotions we see across the nation today are echoed across the Commonwealth, to which our Queen was so committed, in the Church, to which our Queen was so devoted, and in the armed forces, which she led and her family served. Around the world, people will be united in mourning for her passing and united in celebrating her life. We've already seen beautiful tributes flow from across the world. It will be impossible to capture them all here. But each one is a reminder of the esteem in which she was held, of what she achieved on behalf of her country, of the shared values we treasure. The reason our loss feels so profound is not just because she stood...
That, of course, was the UK's opposition leader, Keir Starmer, offering a tribute to the late Queen. Some statements that stood out. He said that the Queen was the heart of our lives. She was a message of unity in troubled times. The Elizabethan age may be over, but her legacy lives on. And, of course, he ended the tribute with some powerful words saying, "God save the King."